Imagine walking into a courtroom, thinking you're untouchable, only to have every secret you've ever tried to hide dragged into the light. That's exactly what happened to Kody Brown. In one of the most shocking courtroom showdowns of the sister wives saga, Kody was exposed in ways no one could have predicted. Christine left free, more powerful than ever, but then just when it seemed like the tale was finally told, Robyn dropped one final bombshell that turned everything on its head. This wasn't merely a court case. This was the unmaking of an empire. The tension had been building for years. Fans had watched the sister wives' family fall apart piece by piece. Christine leaving Kody, Mary drifting away, Janelle standing her ground, and Robyn trying to hold what was left together. But behind the scenes, things were even darker than anyone realized. When finally Christine made legal filings, it wasn't merely over separation. It was over freedom. Financial, emotional, and personal freedom from the man who had so much promised forever family. The trial day had finally come. The courthouse steps were swamped by reporters, cameras popping, and fans waving signs of encouragement for Christine. Kody came with his normal confidence, wearing a stern face, challenging anyone to say a word against him. Christine, however, entered quietly, composed, and most importantly, not afraid. It was obvious from the very beginning, this would not be a typical day in court. Picture the air so thick with tension that each breath seems to have the potential to shatter the silence. That was the courthouse on the morning of Kody Brown's most jaw-dropping trial. A day that started like any other day in Flagstaff would soon descend into one of the most highly publicized courtroom wars in the history of reality TV. The sun had not yet risen when the first group of reporters arrived. They sensed that something was about to go big. News vans clogged the streets. Tripods held cameras. Reporters practiced their lead-ins, and Sister Wives fans started to show up, bearing signs that said Team Christine and Justice for the Wives. The excitement was electric, as if a movie premiere, but this was no script from Hollywood. This was real, raw, and ready to rock the world of reality television to its foundations. Next came the moment of interest. A black SUV stopped in front of the courthouse. Out came Kody Brown. His signature mane of blonde curls encircled his head, but his face said something else. He looked resolved, near defiance, but beneath that bravado, there was a glimmer of nervousness. For years Kody had walked like a man untouched. Cameras tracked him, fans judged him, but he was always in control, or so it seemed. He was the patriarch, the decision-maker, the one who decided how his polygamous clan would work. But today, he was not in control. Today he was on trial. His walk towards the courthouse doors was purposeful, calculated. He didn't wave at the photographers, didn't nod to the reporters yelling his name. If anything, he appeared to be savoring the attention, as though he thought he could turn even this moment around for him. But the crowd murmurs spoke another tale. People weren't applauding. They weren't backing him. They were waiting for him to crash. Moments later, another vehicle arrived. This time, the atmosphere changed altogether. Christine Brown emerged, and the crowd went wild. She was not like Kody. She did not bolt. She did not look away. She smiled nervously, waved softly at fans, and strode by with the sort of quiet strength that only comes from living through decades of suffering and finally finding your voice. Christine glowed, not with glamour, but with peace. For the first time in a long time, she wasn't coming into something where Kody had all the power. She wasn't coming in as a wife, under his control. She was coming in as a woman taking back her life, her dignity, and her freedom. The difference between her and Kody was dramatic. Where Kody appeared tense and guarded, Christine appeared free, even before the trial had started. Fans picked up on it. Reporters remarked on it. Social media went wild with posts, contrasting the two arrivals, one representing control in its moment of death, the other representing freedom. Inside the courthouse, the tension was palpable. Journalists whispered into their phones, sending live reports to their networks. The audience shifted forward, eyes fixed on the doors, anticipating the confrontation they had all assembled to see. The judge sat down, surveying the room with a stern demeanor that brooked no noise. The jury, while not required for this kind of hearing, wasn't there, but it didn't count. The audience itself served as the jury in the court of public opinion. Each sigh, each gasp, each raised eyebrow, would be analyzed by fans everywhere. The bailiff read the case, and the room fell silent. Everybody understood. This was more than a basic disagreement over the law. This was power, control, betrayal, and truth. And for Kody Brown, it was about survival. Not the survival of his public persona, but of the empire he had spent decades building. To see why today was so important, you have to rewind. The sister wives story wasn't merely about a family living in plural marriage, it was about power, broken vows, and fraying of ties that were once indestructible. For years, Christine had been the loyal wife. She did what the rules said, raised the kids, and played her role in the grand polygamy experiment. But behind closed doors, things were crumbling. She felt unloved, unseen, and ultimately unwanted. When she finally broke up with Kody, it wasn't a private choice. It was a public statement that she was through being quiet. And now, in a courtroom, all those years of silence were going to be broken. When Christine and Kody finally sat across from each other, the air was tense. Christine sat stiffly, attorneys by her side, papers precisely stacked before her. Kody slumped back in his chair, arms crossed, eyes darting between Christine and the judge, as if challenging anyone to stand up to him. There were no words shared between them, but there was more said in the silence. This was not a marriage anymore. This was war. As it happened outside the courthouse, the world was abuzz. Fans live-streamed the news. Hashtags #Team Christine and #Kody Exposed started trending on Twitter. News anchors speculated about what secrets could be revealed, with insiders daring to suggest that fiscal records might entirely change the story. For viewers, this wasn't entertainment. This was justice. Most had seen Christine's plight unfold on television, feeling her suffering and cheering her resilience. To see her now face to face with Kody in court was to feel vindicated. And what about Kody? He may have been calm on the outside, but sources who were close to the family painted a different picture. In the lead-up to the trial, he was pacing back and forth, yelling and snapping. He feared to lose not only Christine, but the economic framework of the family business. He feared being exposed. Kody had always envisioned himself as the designer of his family's success. He negotiated deals, made appearances, and coordinated the image that they presented to the world. But with Christine prepared to tell the truth, that highly manicured image was in jeopardy. He wasn't battling for money or property alone. He was battling for his name. And he knew deep down that this war may be one he could not emerge victorious from. Christine, on the other hand, was no longer fearful. Friends said that she was composed in the weeks leading up to the trial. She concentrated on her kids, leaned in with her support system, and would not allow fear to have its way with her. This was not about revenge to her. It was about liberty. Her silent confidence unsettled Kody. He was a man who lived for control, for chaos, for being the focus. But Christine was no longer playing by his script, and rules counted in court more than might. At the hour the judge gathered to start, the courtroom fell silent. Reporters poised their pens. Lawyers tightened their ties. And the two leading players, Kody and Christine, digested the news of the first battle in what would be one of Sister Wives' most explosive trials. At this point, the stage wasn't merely set. It was ablaze with excitement. Everybody knew the truth was finally going to be revealed. But nobody, not even Christine, had any idea just how groundbreaking the revelations were going to be. Because whereas Christine was wanting freedom, and Kody was wanting control, there was someone else in the wings, holding a secret that would turn everything around. And her name was Robyn. Christine's attorneys arrived armed. They had years of banking records, secret contracts, and testimony from intimate family members. The evidence was damning. Kody wasn't merely a neglectful husband. He was a man who had employed control, manipulation, and secrecy in order to keep his family in line. When Christine testified, the courtroom was silent. Everyone in the room wanted to hear what she had to say. Her words were firm, her voice unshakable. For years I thought loyalty was enough. But loyalty without love is just a cage. I gave everything to this family, And in return I was controlled, ignored and betrayed. Today, I'm not asking for sympathy. I'm demanding my freedom." Gasps were heard throughout the courtroom. Some of her supporters clapped too, before being hushed by the judge. Christine had been speaking not only for herself, but also for every single individual who ever felt trapped in a relationship that was based on fear and control. The judge's decision was quick and decisive. Christine was free, her finances unraveled, her burdens removed, her life at last hers again. The look of relief on her face told the tale of a woman who had battled and prevailed. But if Christine believed this was the end, she was mistaken. The storm was just getting started. Silence descended on the courtroom as Christine Brown stood up from her chair. This wasn't a woman walking into a witness stand. This was a woman walking into freedom. And as she began to take her oath, the atmosphere changed. Everyone sensed something incredible was about to take place. From the beginning, Christine's legal team arrived armed like warriors on the front lines of battle. They didn't indulge in pleasantries or small talk. Instead, they slammed a pile of evidence down on the table with a resounding thud that reverberated around the room. Emails, bank statements, property deeds, contracts, each piece of paper stood for years of silence, years of domination, years of giving up. But now, all those same years were going to be used as a tool of truth. Christine's lead lawyer spoke to the judge calmly. "Your Honor, today we will demonstrate that our client Christine Brown should be granted complete autonomy. She has been emotionally, financially and spiritually trapped. Today is not about revenge. Today is about freedom." The words swirled in the air like a forecast. All eyes were on her as Christine strode to the witness stand. The clicking of her heels on the shining courtroom floor was the only noise, each step ringing out like a drumbeat of rebellion. Reporters wrote frantically in their notebooks. Viewers watching online drew closer to their computers. Even Kody, normally confident and smug, squirmed in his seat. Christine held up her hand, took her oath, and sat down. The courtroom fell silent. Her attorney started softly. "Christine, can you explain to us in your own words why you are here today?" Christine didn't hesitate. She gazed directly ahead, her voice firm and calm. "For years I thought loyalty would suffice. I gave my heart, my time and my youth to a man who swore to love and family. But what I got in return was control, neglect and betrayal. I'm here today because I refuse to waste another moment bound to that." A murmur of emotion ran through the courtroom. Supporters nodded, some even crying. Christine's words were not just testimony. They were freedom. Her attorneys brought out exhibits one at a time. First were financial records, detailing how Kody had diverted family funds into hidden accounts, keeping Christine in debt and helpless. Then came witnesses from intimate family friends, testifying how Christine was excluded from decision-making, left out of family plans and emotionally manipulated. One witness explained the way that Kody would tease affection like a reward, offering Christine brief kisses and kisses, pulling them away every time she complained. Another explained how Christine was bullied into silence every time she complained about financial decisions. The proof was stark. Christine had not been an equal in her marriage. She had been a captive. But the most powerful came from Christine herself. She didn't weep. She didn't rage. She spoke with a measured, cold solidity that sliced through the courtroom like a knife. "I was told to be thankful. I was told to keep quiet. But silence almost killed me. Today I choose my voice. Today I choose freedom." Even the judge, who was renowned for his stoicism, leaned forward with a softened face. Christine wasn't only bringing a case. She was becoming it. As Christine testified, all eyes would stray occasionally in Kody's direction. His jaw clenched with every phrase. His hands gripped each other tightly, fingers tapping anxiously against the table in anger. He sneered angrily at his attorney, but could do little. For the first time, Kody wasn't dictating terms. For the first time, the world wasn't watching him play the patriarch, but watching him as the man Christine painted: manipulative, belittling, and undeserving of devotion. Reporters afterward described Kody's face as changing from rage to terror, as if he understood that the empire he had meticulously built for TV was being taken apart bit by bit on television before a live audience. Hours of witness testimony, paperwork and interrogation finally passed, and the moment everyone had been waiting for finally came: the judge's ruling. The court went silent. Cameras popped softly as the judge leaned forward. "Mrs. Brown." The judge replied, voice firm, "You have shown not only bravery but also lucidity. The record indicates a chronic pattern of control and unfairness. This court acknowledges your right to autonomy. You are financially and legally free of Mr. Brown from this date forward." Christine closed her eyes, a surge of relief sweeping over her. She took a deep breath, as if a person finally bringing air into lungs that have been underwater for far too long. The courtroom exploded in gasps and whispers. Journalists clicked their typewriters at lightning speed. Spectators outside applauded as news spread like wildfire. Christine had won. She was finally free. But the most compelling image occurred after the gavel came down. Christine didn't hurry. She didn't go wild. She just stood, collected her papers and exited the courtroom with her head held high. That walk was everything. It wasn't about divorce. It wasn't about money. It was about winning back a life that had been taken from her for far too long. Later, fans referred to the moment as cinematic, as if witnessing the heroine of a tale finally emerge out of the darkness and into the light. Outside, crowds went wild. Supporters stood with signs bearing Christine's name, cheering words of support. Reporters mobbed her. Microphones pushed forward. Questions asked. Christine smiled, gazed directly into the cameras and uttered a single sentence: "Freedom feels good." It was brief, straightforward and indelible. Social media went into a frenzy immediately. Twitter became inundated with hashtags such as #ChristineWalksFree, #Justice for Christine and #FreedomFeelsGood. TikTok users started sharing reaction clips, some in tears, others cheering. Instagram was filled with fan art featuring Christine as a warrior shattering her chains. For others, Christine's win wasn't about her. It was about hope. Hope that anyone stuck in a bad situation would someday have the strength to walk away free. But as Christine basked in her win, the ripple effects started. Kody's fans, while fewer in number, became defensive. Some claimed he was being unfairly demonized. But the vast majority took the side of Christine, applauding her strength and condemning Kody's years of domination. Even in the family, murmurs of splintering became louder. If Christine got away scot-free, what did that say for Janelle? For Mary? For Robyn? Christine's triumph wasn't individual. It was a fire starter that potentially could set off a firestorm throughout the whole Brown family dynamics. A little later in the night, Christine addressed journalists privately, providing one last press release that encapsulated her experience. "I didn't win today because Kody lost. I won because I found myself again. For years I thought love meant sacrifice. But real love doesn't cage you. Real love sets you free. Today I set myself free." Her words were on the front pages of newspapers. They were on the posters of fans. They were the message that circulated around the world. Christine wasn't merely walking away free. She was walking into history. But although Christine's story closed on that day, the tale was far from finished. Because although Christine walked away to freedom, Kody was left with something much more sinister: anger. And quietly sitting in the courtroom, not wiping away tears, was Robyn, who possessed a secret that would soon alter all. With Christine's freedom announced, the attention turned squarely on Kody. And this is where events became strictly explosive. Christine's lawyers unveiled disturbing money secrets, hidden accounts, covert shifting of funds, and property titles that Kody had juggled about without his wife's knowledge. It didn't appear to be the actions of a responsible husband, but more like those of a desperate man trying to salvage his kingdom. Testimonies of past insiders portrayed him as manipulative, controlling, and usually untruthful. He had been using vows of loyalty and oneness as instruments to dominate his household, while keeping it private that he was the one with the monopoly on power. As every piece of information unfolded, Kody's expression darkened. His signature confidence crumbled, clenched jaw, darting eyes, tight-fisted on the table. This was not the picture of the serene patriarch he had ever presented. This was a man trapped by his own lies. By the time Christine's lawyers were done, there was no question Kody wasn't losing a wife. He was losing his reputation, his credibility, and the very bedrock of the life he had constructed on television. But the shocking surprise came next, and it wasn't from Christine. By the time Christine's freedom was secured, the courtroom felt electric. But nobody was prepared for what came next. Because while Christine was walking away free, the spotlight swung, ever so gradually, onto Kody Brown. And when the truth started to spill, it was like seeing a man's empire come crashing down in real time. The judge's decision on Christine had hardly been finalized when her lawyers switched gears. They weren't content with just letting Christine go free. No, they wanted the truth, every last bit of it, to finally be revealed. Your Honor, the lead attorney for Christine started. Although my client is now lawfully free, issues of behavior, money, and integrity require the attention of this court. We request leave to present further evidence about Mr. Brown's conduct throughout this marriage. The judge approved it, and in that moment, Kody's face went white. He had come in thinking this was a straightforward divorce hearing, clean, quick, and done. But now, it was being transformed into something exponentially larger. An exposure trial. Christine's attorneys displayed documents onto the courtroom screen. Bank statements, wire transfers, and tax returns. Each page uncovered secret information about Kody's financial transactions. The proof was obvious. The years passed, and Kody had shifted big amounts of money into secret accounts that the other wives were unaware of. The collectively earned money from the show, book tours, and public speeches, money that was ostensibly for the benefit of everyone in the family, had been systematically diverted elsewhere. The lawyer spoke clearly, but firmly. Mr. Brown, according to records, you sent more than $600,000 into accounts in your own name. These were not reported to your wives. Can you tell me why? Kody fidgeted uncomfortably in his seat, his jaw clenching. He leaned toward his attorney, whispering urgently, but the deed was done. The papers didn't lie. Gasps circulated around the courtroom. Some onlookers covered their mouths. Others shook their heads in amazement. Internet viewers burst with outrage. The father who had preached equality and justice had been quietly amassing riches. But money was not the issue. There, as on to see, Christine's attorneys called witnesses, family acquaintances, former employees, even one of the children who had grown up and decided to testify. Each testimony shared the same motif: manipulation. Kody had offered love in return for compliance. He had pitted wives against each other, planting jealousy and discord. He had favored some, rewarding loyalty with attention and punishing independence with chilliness. One witness, a longtime family friend, spoke of meals where Kody would compliment one wife in front of the rest of them, and then afterward reproach another for not being supportive enough. Another said that Kody would frequently say he was carrying the burden of the whole family when in fact he was isolating wives to undermine their confidence. The image that formed was distinct. This was not leadership. This was domination. As the proof grew, Kody started to break down. His characteristic cool, TV-friendly demeanor dissolved. His arms waved wildly as he yelled into his attorney. He shook his head forcefully as papers were presented. At one time, he even mumbled aloud, "This is warped. This is not right," for which he received a stern rebuke from the judge to keep quiet. The man who had always been in control was helpless now. And worse, he was vulnerable. Journalists recorded every twitch of feeling. The photographs later snapped, told the tale: curled fists, scrunched eyes, perspiration beading on his forehead. This was not the self-assured patriarch the fans were familiar with. This was an animal trapped. Christine quote. Seth's lawyer recapped the evidence with shattering clarity. Brown presented himself as a man of faith, unity, and family values. But the truth revealed today shows a pattern of selfishness, deception, and exploitation. He spoke of loyalty but used it as a weapon. He spoke of fairness but hoarded wealth. He spoke of family but treated it like a business, one where only he profited. The words hit like a sledgehammer. Kody stirred again, his face contorted in anger. But the viewers could see it. his decades-long empire of deception crumbling. The judge, who had been fairly impartial up until this point, finally looked at Kody straight. "Mr. Brown, evidence before us today raises grave questions about your integrity and behavior. Although today's decision releases Mrs. Brown, this court cannot dismiss the ominous financial misrepresentations and personal deceptions uncovered. You are cautioned that this is not a theater of sorts. This is about truth. And currently the truth is not on your side." The courtroom was filled with whispers. Kody's head fell as slightly, his bravado lost. Outside court, the news mushroomed. Media houses flashed headlines. Kody Brown's secret accounts revealed in court. Christine walks free while Kody's lies dissolve. From patriarch to pariah, Kody Brown's empire in shambles. Social media became vicious. Memes joked at Kody's faces in court. Hashtags #Kody exposed and #liar liar Kody trended in hours. Supporters who once scolded Christine for quitting now cheered her on as courageous. Public opinion had rendered its opposite judgment, and Kody had lost. Through the ordeal, Christine sat calmly with dignity. She didn't taunt, she didn't smirk, she just let the facts speak for themselves. That quietness, that self-control, proved to be her ultimate arsenal. Because while Kody became more and more indignant, Christine's serenity made her appear stronger. Her silence yelled louder than Kody's objections. And yet, as incriminatory as the evidence was, the most jarring blow wasn't dealt by Christine's camp. It came from within Kody's own ranks. Because while the world saw him unravel, someone very close to him was getting ready to deliver the coup de grace. That woman was Robyn. As Christine's attorneys concluded their presentation, everyone's attention shifted to the other wives present in the courtroom. Janelle crossed her arms, an unreadable expression on her face. Mary avoided cameras by looking down, but Robyn, the most loyal wife to Kody, appeared pale and shaken, as if she was burdened with a secret no one else shared. And when she finally rose, speaking in a whisper that would freeze the courtroom, "I can't stay silent anymore." It was clear, Kody wasn't merely exposed. He was going to be dismantled. For years Robyn had been Kody's favorite wife, the one who stayed with him through thick and thin. She was faithful, she was reserved, and she would even stick up for him when the others wouldn't. But today was different. When the courtroom erupted in shock at the proof, Robyn rose up. Her hands were shaking, her voice was quivering, but her words sliced through the silence like a blade. "I can't shield him anymore. The truth has to come out." Everyone's eyes were on her. Even Christine stopped, her expression a cross of curiosity and disbelief. Robyn showed them that she had found out something months ago, something she could no longer keep silent about. Hidden in the financial statement, deep within, she had discovered a secret scheme Kody had kept hidden. This scheme was to move almost all the joint assets of the family, houses, lands, and trust money, even into accounts held by Kody and Robyn alone. The other wives, they would get nothing. No financial stability, no portion of the empire they had contributed to. Nothing. The courtroom erupted in uproar. Gasps, cries, journalists working their notebooks frantically. It was pandemonium. Christine's eyes narrowed in anger. The judge banged the gavel for order. And Kody, he remained silent, his face stunned, exposed not only by his former wife, but by the one person he had assumed would stand up for him at all times. Robyn's sobbing admission of the truth was not only betrayal, it was the last nail in the coffin of Kody's empire. The courtroom had already witnessed its share of drama. Christine had walked free. Kody had been exposed. But nobody at all was ready for what followed. Because in that stifling stillness, when all thought the tempest had spent its fury, Robyn Brown rose. And with shaking hands, she brought forth a secret so ruinous. It broke what was left of Kody's kingdom. Until now, Robyn had not spoken. She occupied the front row, beside Kody, her head slightly lowered. Occasionally she reached for his hand, whispering reassurances. She had always been the loyal wife, the one who defended him publicly, the one who seemed to choose silence over confrontation. But as Christine's lawyers wrapped up their fiery evidence, Robyn's posture changed. Her shoulders squared, her chin lifted. Her eyes, once fixed downward, now stared straight at the judge. "Your Honor," she said softly, at first her voice barely carrying across the room. I need to speak. The entire courtroom froze. Spectators gasped audibly. Christine turned, eyebrows raised. Even Janelle, usually composed, leaned forward, her mouth slightly open in shock. Kody whipped his head toward Robyn, eyes wide with panic. No, he hissed under his breath. Don't, but Robyn shook her head, tears brimming in her eyes. For the first time ever, she wasn't hearing Kody, she was hearing herself. The judge looked over their glasses. Mrs. Brown, are you asking to testify? Robyn nodded, her voice stronger this time. Yes, I can't be silent anymore. The gavel came down. Permission granted. And so the woman who had fought tooth and nail for Kody's rights became the one with the blade raised to fell the final piece of his kingdom. Every foot Robyn made towards the witness stand seemed like an eternity. Her heels clattered like thunder. Cameras flashed wildly. Reporters propped forward, pens scratching paper. Christine narrowed her eyes, attempting to size up what was going to transpire. Janelle just sat there, her expression unreadable, and Mary, she appeared as though she'd seen a specter. When Robyn eventually sat, she lifted her right hand, took her oath, and released a tremulous breath. Her voice wobbled as she started, but the gravity of her words stilled the whole room. I have attempted to be faithful. I have attempted to shield this family. I have shielded him more times than I can remember. But the thing is, what I know cannot continue in secrecy any longer. If I remain silent, then I am every bit as culpable as he is. Kody slammed his hand on the table. Robyn, you dare not, Mr. Brown. The judge broke in sternly. You will be quiet while Mrs. Brown is testifying. Kody slumped back in his chair, his face flushed with anger. And then Robyn released the first bombshell. I discovered documents, Robyn explained, now speaking more steadily. Months ago, documents that Kody never shared with the rest of us. Secret contracts, bank transfers, property deeds. He was going to move nearly everything, every home, every piece of land, even trust funds held by family members, into accounts that had only two names on them, his and mine. Gasps erupted throughout the courtroom. Christine's mouth opened in shock. Janelle breathed softly. Oh my God. Mary put her hand over her mouth. Robyn brushed away tears and went on. I didn't ask for it. I didn't even know until I found the files by accident. But when I confronted him, he said it was to protect the family, that the other wives didn't need to know, that it would all become clear later. But I knew, it wasn't protection. It was control. The courtroom was pandemonium. Journalists wrote frantically. Onlookers grumbled to each other. The judge raped the gavel over and over, demanding quiet. Kody sprang to his feet, his face trembling with anger. She's lying. She's distorting everything. I was defending what's mine, what ours. The judge glared. Sit down, Mr. Brown. One more interruption, and I will hold you in contempt. Kody slumped back down, but his anger was evident. His face was beet red, his hands curled into fists, his body shaking. The proud patriarch, who had once stood so tall and strong now, resembled a man who was losing everything in public. Tears streamed down Robyn's face as she went on. I stayed silent for so long because I felt it was my responsibility. I felt that if I spoke up for him, maybe something would change. But what happened was that I became complicit. And I can't live with that anymore. Christine deserved better. Janelle deserved better. Mary deserved better. Mary deserved better. We all did. Her voice broke over the final words, and even Christine appeared briefly moved. This was no mere testimony. It was a confession, an unburdening of years of guilt. Robyn produced from her bag a folder she'd brought with her. Copies of the documents she'd uncovered lay inside: property transfers, bank account authorizations, and scribbled notes in Kody's distinctive handwriting. She placed them before the judge, her hands shaking. This is the proof. He wasn't keeping us safe. He was keeping himself safe. The judge looked at the documents, his face darkening with every page. Christine's lawyers instantly asked for copies to review, and while they read through the documents, their eyes widened. This verifies everything, one hissed. The instant the papers hit the record, the courtroom exploded once more. Some onlookers gasped so loudly. The bailiff was forced to ask for order. Journalists leaned in with hushed tones, delivering live reports to millions of viewers online. Twitter went ablaze in an instant. Robyn just turned on Kody. #Kody exposed. #Robyn speaks. This is greater than Christine's liberty. This is the outside. Fans glued to their phones screamed in shock as the news went like a wildfire. Christine, who had sat firm and stoic the whole day, finally lost control. She shook her head slowly, eyes agape, as reality set in. All those years, all that devotion, and at the back of it all, Kody had been scheming to leave her and the rest of them with nothing. For a fleeting moment, her gaze clashed with Robyn's. And although there was no sound, the gaze spoke volumes. And how could you? Stone-faced, Janelle sat with her arms folded tightly around her chest, her lips curled into a firm line. Her eyes blazed with rage. However, she had long suspected Kody of favoritism. But this was betrayal at its worst. Mary's face was pale, her hands trembling in her lap. She had given decades of her life to this man, only to learn he had been planning to erase her completely from the family legacy. Kody tried once more to speak, but his words faltered. It's not what it looks like. But the judge cut him off. Mr. Brown, the facts are plain. Your integrity is at issue, your credibility shaken. This court cannot disregard what has been uncovered. Kody sank back in his chair, defeated. His business empire, his family, his reputation, everything was slipping away from him. Robyn continued to sob, and in a barely audible whisper, she spoke one last line that resonated in the room. I defended him because I thought he loved us. But now I know, he only ever loved himself. The silence that ensued was oppressive. Even the air felt thicker. It was the moment when everyone knew Kody's fall wasn't imminent. It had come. By the time Robyn left the witness stand, she looked broken, yet unencumbered. She had revealed the man she once defended, and in doing so she had liberated herself from the shackles of silence. The judge commanded a complete probe of Kody's financial transactions. Christine's attorneys smiled contentedly, her case now more powerful than ever. Christine walked tall, more powerful than ever, as if years of burden had been removed from her shoulders. Janelle and Mary met glances of betrayal, of fury, of hard-earned satisfaction. And Kody, he alone, sitting in his crumbling empire, his secrets revealed by the very wife he believed would never betray him. The courtroom had witnessed battles before, but nothing of this sort. Christine walked out free. Kody was tainted. And Robyn, once his strongest protector, became his strongest destroyer. With her testimony, the last secret was out. And with it, the Brown family empire crashed irreparably. By the time the trial ended, nothing was the same. Christine emerged from the courthouse, a free woman, empowered and adored by fans around the world. She had reclaimed her dignity and triumphed not only for herself, but for every woman who had followed her saga. Kody, in contrast, exited a shadow of his former self. His empire crumbled, his secrets exposed, and his most trusted ally, Robyn, shone the light on his greatest betrayal. Robyn herself was torn to pieces, stuck between love and reality. In exposing Kody's secret, she had shattered the fantasy of their marriage, but also liberated herself from the weight of silence. Outside, journalists hounded Christine, who just smiled and remarked, "Freedom feels better than I ever imagined." Kody refused to comment, shoving through the cameras with fury etched on his face. Robyn trailed behind silently, the burden of her confession settling upon her. And in a blink of an eye, the sister wives' history was restructured. The once built empire on loyalty, devotion, and togetherness had fallen apart, revealed as no more than a house of cards. But viewers were left wondering one ominous question. If Robyn uncovered this secret, how many more remain hidden in the shadows of Kody's past? By the time the gavel fell for the last time, it was apparent things would never be the same. Christine had been set free. Kody had been revealed. Robyn's secret had exploded like a bomb in the middle of the courtroom. But as the dust settled, the real tale wasn't what went down inside those walls. It was how all of it outside of them began to come apart. When the judge at last adjourned the session, the courtroom felt heavy with tension. No one hastened to exit. Spectators murmured in astonishment. Reporters rushed to get in their reports, their flash bulbs popping as Kody slumped, refusing to budge. Christine rose first. She picked up her belongings with equanimity, almost queen-like in her dignity. With a final look at Kody, half pity, half victory, she left the courtroom, her head held high. The crowd outside erupted into applause, shouting her name like a heroine who had just emerged victorious from a war. Janelle followed close behind, quiet but clearly fuming. Her silence was more eloquent than words, her face a storm about to erupt. Mary followed last, her face pale, as if the burden of decades had only just settled completely on her shoulders. And Robyn? She hung around, her eyes puffy from sobbing. She had told the truth. But at what expense? Her devotion had been broken, and so had her marriage. For the first time in 4 decades, Kody was alone. His wives had left him, or betrayed him. His empire was in shambles. His secrets were out. And worse, he had no control over the story anymore. Reporters surrounded him as he finally stood. Kody, comment? Did it happen that you were keeping money from your family? What do you say about Robyn's account? But Kody's head stayed bent, his face twisted in humiliation. For a man who'd once lived for headlines, the glare now seared like flames. Within a few hours, the headlines blazed across every front page. Christine walks free as Kody's empire crumbles. Robyn Brown betrays husband. Reveals secret scheme. Sister wives scandal. The courtroom drama that changed everything. Montages of the courtroom made their way onto social media like wildfire. Robyn's emotional confession went viral. Christine's silent courage touched millions. And Kody's furious rants became memes, ridiculed throughout social media. On TikTok, viewers reenacted scenes with dramatic pizzazz. On Twitter, hashtags #KodyExposed, #TeamChristine, and #RobynSpeaks trended worldwide. YouTube reaction clips flooded the site, each analyzing every jaw-dropping moment. The public had chosen sides, and overwhelmingly, they stood with Christine and the other wives. For Christine, the aftermath was liberation. She held a press conference days later, standing outside her new home with her children by her side. Calm, collected, and radiant, she said, "I did not leave family. I left control. And now I am free. Free not just legally, but spiritually, emotionally, and financially. My children and I will create something better, something healthier, something honest." Millions of people were touched by what she said, particularly women who had been caught in abusive relationships. Fans wrote her letters, saying she was an inspiration. Book offers, interviews, and speaking engagements flooded her mailbox. Christine wasn't merely walking free. She was entering a whole new era. Janelle, although less outspoken, signaled her position clearly in a well-crafted social media statement. Sometimes silence is strength. Sometimes walking away is the loudest answer of all. I stand with Christine. I stand with truth. Her statement was liked and commented on by millions, making her a quiet but forceful presence in the developing story. Mary, however, fought more openly. For years she had clung to the hope that Kody would resume seeing her, select her again. But Robyn's announcement crushed that fantasy. During difficult live streams she confessed, "I gave decades of my life to a man who was never really there. Now I need to learn who I am without him." Fans were in her corner, sending love, support, and encouragement. Mary finally looked ready to turn the page. Without Kody. Robyn's was the most complex situation. By outing Kody, she broke free from silence, but also ended up killing off the sole relationship she had left. She was both praised and slammed. Some praised her as a hero for speaking out at last. Some criticized her for being complicit for too long. In an emotional interview, she admitted, "I thought I was keeping him safe by keeping the family safe. But I was really just allowing him. And when I saw what he was actually doing, I couldn't continue with the deception anymore." She got some forgiveness for her candor, but it came at a steep price. Kody wouldn't speak to her, his anger boiling over into complete estrangement. The woman who was once his favorite now stood alone. For Kody, the fallout was merciless. An investigation into his finances became more intense. With Robyn's records now publicly available, he not only risked public embarrassment but also faced legal repercussions. Businesses severed ties. Networks that were willing to court him for reality shows distanced themselves. His family man image was ruined. Even his children, who had remained quiet for years, started speaking up. Some took to social media, accusing him of manipulation, favoritism, and emotional abuse. The story changed from Kody the patriarch to Kody the Khan. And the man who had once ruled over a vast household of wives and children stood alone in a small rented room, bitter and isolated, watching everything unravel. The Brown family had once been a symbol of polygamous togetherness, tumultuous perhaps, but whole. They were the family that demonstrated to the world a different way of life, who reaffirmed that love could be multiplied, not divided. Now, the deception had vanished. Christine's freedom, Robyn's confession, Janelle and Mary's independence. It all painted a new picture. One not of unity, but of survival. One not of faith, but of control. The empire Kody built on cameras, contracts, and control had collapsed under the weight of truth. Commentators weighed in for weeks. Some praised the wives for their courage. Others criticized the years of silence that enabled Kody's manipulation. Psychologists were guests on talk shows, deconstructing the power imbalance, the favoritism, the poisonous control. Legal analysts broke down the financial scandal, guessing at charges that could follow. Across the nation, people were discussing. Yet one thing was certain. The sister wives saga had evolved from a reality TV experiment into a cautionary tale. Months later, Christine published a memoir. At the end of the last chapter, she wrote words that resonated with the courtroom climax. I used to think that freedom was about leaving a marriage. But freedom is bigger than that. It's moving toward truth, no matter how painful that is. It's choosing your children, your integrity, your soul over someone else's oppression. That's what I did. And I will never regret it. Her book was a bestseller, solidifying her place as the woman who stood up, spoke out, and walked free. And with the credits rolling on this part of the Brown family saga, one thing remained true. The man who had once believed that he could dictate the narrative had lost it forever. The women that he had underestimated had spoken. And the family that had ever been united under his name had finally escaped, leaving Kody isolated, vulnerable, and forgotten. Because in the end, the truth will always prevail. And when it finally did, everything changed.